Hello everyone, my name is Gurnur Singh and this is my short video explanation for encapsulation in C Sharp, which is one of the most important and beginner-friendly concepts in object-oriented programming. To start with this explanation, we will start by defining encapsulation. And so what exactly is encapsulation? It's the concept of hiding internal data and exposing only what's necessary through methods. What it does is it helps us protect internal state of an object and prevent it from being changed. And this is very clear with this diagram as well, as you guys can see, that the data and methods that are required, they are binded and hidden from the user. So those can't be changed and the program runs smoothly and there are no unwanted or unexpected changes in the program. And so this basically marks the basic three needs for encapsulation, because as discussed earlier, it's protecting the data integrity, that only the external code is modified or changed, and the internal behaviors or the code is not stay the same, and so the program runs smoothly. And an example of that is basically a bank account class which keeps balance private, so it can't be set to a negative number directly. And this can happen through basically a coding default or through bugs as well. And another reason that we need encapsulation is that it helps in code maintainability. So any sort of internal implementation or changes within the code or in the basic logic, they can be made easily when it's private and it's not a part of the external code. And the best example for that is basically interest calculation. So in a program, let's say you want to increase or decrease the interest rate. It can be updated without changing the code that uses the interest method. So that's another advantage that we can say. Apart from that, it's about the controlled access, because what encapsulation does is it helps to expose only what's necessary to the main program with help of its setters and getter methods, which helps to add validation to the logic whenever it's needed. And the best example of that is basically a set age method that can only assure that positive values are added instead of the negative values. And to basically bring this into much more understanding, what I have done is used a real world analogy here. And that you guys can see through the diagram here that it's like, so what I've used is an example of driving a car. So for a car, we have the steering wheels, the pedals, and dashboard buttons, and whatever. When you're driving the car, what we're doing is using all these external things. But what we don't know is what's happening inside the engine or the transmission or the fuel tank, whatever. We don't know the complex tasks that are being undertaken under the hood of the car while we're driving it. And that's much more for our safety as well as the safety of the system that runs the car as well. Because you don't want to make any of the changes while the car is running into its system and then basically end up crashing somewhere. So that's basically a real life analogy here that for a program as well, what we do not want is that we end up changing something in the basics of the software or the program we are using, that we end up crashing it. And that's the real world analogy that I use here. But also in order to get this into much more of a programming state, what I've used actually what I've done is created a programming example here. And let me just, so let's say that we have a code that is without encapsulation. So let's say I create a personal class with two public fields, that is name and age. What's going to happen is that those public fields, they are going to be exposed to the users or anyone else. And this is going to be a bad practice. Why? Because any of the part of the program that can directly change its values, it can cause a problem, because someone could accidentally set the age to -10. Or in the name field, let's say someone can forget to enter the name. So that can cause the problems in the code or in the software itself. And in order to avoid that, what we have to do is, I'll just share the screen. You guys can see here. So what I've done in this public class person is that my name field and my age field are both set to private. So they are not directly accessible via anyone from outside. And then in order to access or get those fields, what I've done is use the getter methods, that is get name and then get age, and then the setter methods for setting the values of those particular fields. So set name sets the value for name, and then set age here sets the value for age. And then if we move forward into a class program here, you guys can see that we have the main program where the name is mentioned, and we have the right line consoles here in order to print those names and the age as well. So what's that going to ensure is that both that name has a field, as a field has an input, and then the age is positive here. So yeah, let's see the output. So you guys can see this is the output that I received, that name Alice and age 25, that's the positive. So this is basically a programming example of how to use encapsulation in order to ensure that we get the right outcome, and the basic data of the program we are using doesn't get affected by any of the external resources or users. And what I'll just do is get back to my PowerPoint now. So yeah, that's what I discussed. Yeah, as we can like fix this using encapsulation. So what we did was we set the name and age to private, and so that they're hidden from outside. And instead of using any other functions, what we did was we provide public getter and setter methods that control those values so that can be accessed or changed. So yeah, that's the whole example. And the age only is allowed to set if it's greater than or equal to 0. So what it does is that it helps us protect the integrity of a fields and objects that are there in the program. And so yeah, this is my whole video demonstration of encapsulation, which is about hiding the internal data and exposing what's only necessary to keep the object safe, predictable, and easy to maintain. And apart from that, how do we achieve it? We achieve it by making our fields private and using public methods, setter and getter methods, for accessing those fields. So yeah, overall, this was my video demonstration for encapsulation. Thank you.